she deliberated, and just as she decided to turn away, the door jerked open and Duke glared out at her. "What do you want?" he snapped. Before she could answer, they both heard voices at the bottom of the stairs, and Duke pulled her inside, slamming the door and pressing her against it. "Come to beg me to help again?" He was holding her shoulders roughly. His face dove dangerously. Oh, this is embarrassing. Hello, friends. So, I own a lot of books, and the internet really likes to make sure that I know that they don't approve. As many of you may know, I have been decluttering pretty consistently for a year. I made a series of videos where I decluttered, and I have been putting off this part of the house for so long, mainly because books are one of the hardest things for me to get rid of. Now, one fun thing to note is that these bookshelves were originally built to house teacups. The owner of this house reserved the living room to be her fancy room. It had the nice carpet, it had the grand piano, and it had her shelves full of teacups, so kids could not come in here. Her grandkids, who I have met, reported that they only remember ever being in this room once. So regular size modern books such as this one do not fit on the shelves upright. They just too short, because these are made for teacups. I've been putting this off for a year, partially because the internet keeps telling me to do it and I don't wanna, because don't tell me what to do, and partially because I just know that I'm gonna have a hard time like actually letting go of books that I know I will never read. Some of them will be modern, a lot of them will be classic authors that I just like. I want to like classic authors, but I just don't. So let's get into it. Future Kristina popping in here to say this video is sponsored by Skillshare, but I will talk about them in a little bit. So as you can see, I have a lot to take down, and I want to say here as a disclaimer for anyone who's new to my channel, hi, my name is Kristina. I have ADHD and maybe otherwise neurodivergent in other ways, and if I know that I'm going to do something for a video, I will just not do it for the rest of the time. So that's why my mantle is in such a state of chaos. I knew that I was going to declutter my books, and so as you can see, I started putting stacks of books up on the mantle, and because I've literally never gotten curtains for these little windows, my husband tends to use pillows to block out the light. But I took down my little winter village, which I tend to leave up pretty late into the year because I like it, and I feel like the winter season has not lasted long enough for me to enjoy it this year. And it was pretty satisfying, I'm not gonna lie, to take all of this down. I really love it when it's up and when it's lit and when it's wintry, but we are seeing spring, so it was definitely time to take it all down, and it felt really good to do so. So I have gotten all of the winter decorations off of the mantle, and now it is time to take all of the books off the mantle, and I think that is the first round that I am going to declutter. So let's get into it. Taking the books off the mantle really showed me just how many books I have, because I had a mixture of antique books and modern books that I haven't read up on my mantle, and this was a legitimate workout. I was sore the day after I finished this whole thing, but again, it was really satisfying to take down and see exactly what I have. I think that the method of taking everything out or off and putting it all on the floor is a really good one, especially if you're neurodivergent like me. So most of the books on the mantle were either like antique collectible books or hi Pumpkin. They were like modern books I've gotten from Book of the Month, which is kind of the only way I buy new books now. Not sponsored by Book of the Month, by the way. I wish they would sponsor me. But some of these I've known for a while that I probably just need to get rid of. I've just been hanging on to them because I think that they're cool However, I do have something exciting planned for above the fireplace, like on the wall. I'm going to change up the wall color because we've had it for 5 years. It is beautiful, and I am staying within the green scheme, but like you'll see that later. I'm going to change it up a little bit, kind of refresh the color. Kitty? Hello. I'm going to do a speed run through all of these and try to figure out like what I want to keep, what I want to get rid of, and then maybe I'll talk a little bit about it. But I still have like 200 books on each side to even go through, so excuse me, sir. I need to just power through. So I did my best to give the cat a kiss, as you can see here. I did my best to sort my books into categories as I was decluttering them. I wanted to kind of have a pile of romance, a pile of historical romance, some fantasy, sort of just putting them in the piles that they needed to be in so that when I put them back on the shelf, I didn't have to do any extra sorting. Most of these, like I said, are antiques, so they are display books, but I did end up getting rid of a lot of the display books, and just because they were not particularly amazing. I only kept the ones that were really colorful, the books that I knew that I wasn't going to read that I'm just using for display. I'm pretty pleased with what I got rid of. These pages are dedicated to the ramblings, ideas, and imaginations of Kay Burns. You're just as beautiful as your mother, Jester observed. More feisty, though. I would like to go to my room. Aura kept her eyes down away from Jester's cold, leering face. Go then, Jester made a dismissive gesture. But remember that the entrances of the house are guarded, as is my room. You cannot escape, and you cannot kill me. With a slight nod, Aura left the room. The hallway was dim. It was dusk already, time for supper to be served, time for Duke to come in. As she neared the stairs, she wondered if he was already in his room. His was the last door at the top of the stairs. Before she even thought, she was standing indecisively before it, hand raised to knock. She stayed her fist. What if he was angry? What if he reported her to Jester? She deliberated, and just as she decided to turn away, the door jerked open, and Duke glared out at her. What do you want? He snapped. Before she could answer... I have no idea. There's no beginning to this story. This is how it begins. Before she could answer, they both heard voices at the bottom of the stairs, and Duke pulled her inside, slamming the door and pressing her against it. Come to beg me to help again? He was holding her shoulders roughly. Make me an offer I can't refuse? His face dove dangerously. His face dove dangerously? Aura rubbed her forehead, unable to think. She didn't know why she'd come, only that she needed him. She needed his help, his friendship, his love. Oh, this is embarrassing. Okay, well, now that you have fully experienced my embarrassment in one of my old stories, let's talk about today's sponsor, who is Skillshare, because they have learning paths and writing classes and self-publishing classes to take you through the entire process of developing good characters, writing a novel, editing a novel, and publishing a novel. So one of the things that I have personally noticed about the publishing game is that, one, trying to traditionally publish a book takes literally forever, and two, self-publishing is a very good skill to learn. Even if you do not plan to self-publish in the end, It's a good skill to have because I think that the publishing world is changing. A lot of people are self-publishing and changing the way that we view self-published authors. So this is where Skillshare comes in, because they have learning paths from best-selling authors that will teach you everything on how to develop and write a story.
Now, I am currently taking the class called Develop Memorable Characters. This is taught by New York Times best-selling authors, which is amazing. But if writing is not your speed, you can also learn photography and website design and how to sell on Etsy and how to get better at video editing or video filming. There are a plethora of classes that you can take on Skillshare for whatever creative endeavor you are working on.
So, I currently have a book out with one last agent, and if she rejects me, which is entirely possible, this book is also not like the best thing I've ever written. I have since written other things that I think are better. But if she rejects me, I'm going to self-publish it, and I am going to definitely use Skillshare's classes on self-publishing to learn everything there is to know about self-publishing, because I'm trash at that. I don't know. I know technically how to self-publish a book, but I don't know how to market it. I don't know how to do the best that you can do at self-publishing. So I really love that Skillshare has these classes. Now, y'all are probably very familiar with Skillshare because I have worked with them several times now. They are my favorite sponsors to work with. I absolutely love them. But if you do not know, Skillshare is the largest community for creatives to learn, and it's from a creative to another creative. Their classes are set up so that you can take a learning path, which will take you through different creatives teaching you how to do things. You can track your learning progress. Everything is broken down into really nice bite-sized clips, so if you need a pause, you're not going to lose your place. I love this about Skillshare. I love that they have broken things down into really manageable clips, because as a mom, I am constantly being interrupted, and I like that I can just watch like a 7 to 10 minute clip and be done for the day if I have to. If you would like to check out Skillshare for yourself, the first 500 people to click my link down below will get a full free month of Skillshare, and I promise you it is worth it. But let's get back into decluttering, and I really hope there are no more terrible old stories, because I would much rather let y'all read the stuff that I'm writing now. This is gonna go in the maybe pile because I've tried a couple of times, and I think I'm gonna try one more time, and if I still don't like it, I will get rid of it. Literally got this years ago. Like 2 years ago, and I have not opened it once. This is fabulous. Isn't this beautiful? It's purple. I love it. I don't know how, I always am looking for like colorful vintage books. It's from 1908. It's got some amazing Edwardian illustration. Never used that. Neil Gaiman. So Neil Gaiman, Gaiman or Gaiman? I don't actually know. He's one of my favorite authors. I have several copies of my favorite book, which, if you didn't know, my favorite book is Jane Eyre. This 1940s version is absolutely beautiful. It's got woodcut illustrations, and I love it so much. That's a keep. I've had these for a while, and I'm on the fence about whether I need to keep these. They are very cool, but I don't think I will ever read them. I don't think my kids will ever read them, and they are just taking up real estate. They're cool, they're vintage, but so yeah, I don't know what to do with these. Okay, listen, if you like Neil Gaiman and you haven't read Neverwhere, what are you doing? This is my absolute favorite Neil Gaiman book of all time, and I desperately need someone to make a good Neverwhere, because I would watch the heck out of that.
And here I am just sorting some more. I did talk through a lot of this, so you will see that I am pretty much talking for the majority of these clips, but in the end, this video would have been like 3 hours long if I had left in all of the talking that I did. So here we are, sorting books, happily sorting away. As you can see, I'm actually putting a lot to the side that I'm going to get rid of, which I'm very proud of, because for the longest time, books have been the thing that I would lug from house to house no matter how much there was. So this was a very good process for me, learning to let go of things.
piles, and I actually did end up putting quite a bit. Can you see both of these piles here are piles I'm getting rid of. Some of them are just old books that are not that interesting to me, like Charles Dickens, I don't know, Emily Dickinson, Washington Irving, I don't know where they came from. And like there are some like sets that I used to be really into owning, like vintage sets of classic books. I'm not anymore, so I'm gonna get rid of those. Okay, here's a better view of my piles. I have stuff that I've read right here. This is a decoration book. These are like cookbooks, stuff like that. They are all vintage books. This is my to be read pile. That is some quilting books, research books. That's not really research, but whatever. These are the colorful books for the mantle. Getting rid of. And then a few things that go over on the other side of the, what's it called? The other side of the fireplace. Okay, so this is my side of the bookcase, aka the books that I kind of brought with me. My husband had a small set of books that he brought with him when we got married, but I am the book lover, the book hoarder, the book writer, so I obviously have a lot more books. I have a lot of books that I've never read, and I am going to try to be fairly hard on myself and just get rid of things, because while I still intend to have full bookshelves that are not going to look aesthetic, because I will likely arrange them by subject and then author, because that's the only way to do it. I do think that I'm probably going to be getting rid of quite a few like classics that I wanted to read, and I'm just not a classics reader. I tried to be that cool. The only classic book I really love is Jane Eyre. I have reread, that is one of the only books I've reread several times. All the other classics are kind of boring to me. You know what, also Wuthering Heights is pretty good and weird, but I'm just not a classics girly. I love my modern historical fiction. What can I say? So let's get into this. I am not going to take all of the books off the shelf this time. I'm going to take the books off the shelf. I don't know how I'm going to do this, if I'm honest, but let's just get into it.
So I decided not to take all of the books off of the shelves for this portion because I have so many and I knew that it would make a giant mess and it would be overwhelming. So I did sort shelf by shelf. As you can see, I'm sort of taking things off, and what you cannot see is that I'm stacking them into different piles around me, whether I'm going to get rid of them or not. A lot of these are books that I grew up with that I just know I will never reread, and that I don't think my kids will read either, or things that I thrifted and I have better stuff now. A lot of these are vintage books, vintage classics that I thought I would read and I just am not going to, so I'm really only keeping the ones that have cool covers. If you're curious about what classic books I do like, I really love Jane Eyre, I love Wuthering Heights, I like Dracula, I like Frankenstein, but I like Pride and Prejudice, but that's about all of Jane Austen that I can stand. And it cracks me up because a lot of people assume because my favorite author is Jane Eyre, or my favorite book is Jane Eyre, people assume that I really like Jane Austen, and I have to admit that I don't. I don't really like Jane Austen. I think she's a little too wordy. So most of what I got rid of was just Charles Dickens, Jane Austen, things that I will probably literally never read, even though I wanted to, because I've had them for years and years and years. Some of these books are actually going to a book club that I'm part of. Some of them I will see if our local library is taking donations. I don't really know if they are. I have no idea how that works. But then if I cannot get rid of them locally to our library, or any kind of book drive or whatever, I will donate them. And here you can see all of my vintage magazines, which I really need to store better because the baby has gotten into them several times. If you have a good way to store vintage magazines, please let me know, because I do not. Then it was time to sort the other side, which is mainly my husband's books and my kids' books. And as you can see, my kids wanted to be very involved in sorting their books. We didn't really get rid of a whole lot of their books. I like to encourage them to read books as often as they want to, and so we keep whatever catches their fancy. But we did get rid of broken books, ripped books, things, some of these books have paintings on them or scribbles all over them, things like that. Just books that are kind of ruined and no longer usable are pretty much all that we got rid of. But we did sort them. We sorted them into Dr. Seuss, Beatrix Potter, all of the simple read books, and then the chapter books. My oldest two are getting into more advanced reading, so that was that.
Phase 2 of this whole project is to put the books back on the shelves. These are just stored here so the baby didn't get into them, but I only took all of the books off of my side. My husband's side is pretty minimal, and I'm just going to kind of rearrange them to look nice. I didn't take them all off, and they're mostly paperback, so they will get a lot more damaged if we take them off the shelves. But I think I'm going to try to organize by genre and then author. I haven't decided yet. Part of me is like, why don't I just decorate, like organize my books in rainbow order, because that's fun. But then I wouldn't be able to find anything. So I think I'm going to try to sort them into their genres and then put them back by author name, so that, or by author name, because that's the easiest way to do it. So let's get started.
So the first part of putting books back is to sort them into their genres. I decided to go by genre and then author last name, because I don't think I could really, my brain just doesn't work any other way. So I'm sorting them into piles of modern romance, and then historical romance, and then fantasy, historical fantasy, historical. Just those are, I think, the main categories that I have. And then there are piles for classic books, and then I don't remember if I had any other categories. I am mainly a fairy tale. Fairy tale was one of the categories, but that kind of went along with fantasy. I am very much a romance girly, so any kind of book that has any romance edge to it, I will probably read it. And if it does not have any romance in it, even if it's just little things like somebody falling in love by the end, I prefer those. I am a romantic at heart. So that is how I sorted the piles, and I cannot wait for you to see the finished result of these shelves. I am so happy with how it all turned out. I think that it looks really nice. It's so much easier to see what I like. And it's really pleasing to look at to me. It might not be for everyone, but I really like colorful bookshelves. I really like lots of books, and I really like the way my shelves look.
So now we have moved on to phase 3, and this is the part that I'm very excited about. First of all, of course, I have to arrange the books on the mantle, but before that happens, I'm going to wallpaper the wall. So one of my goals in this room has been to meld mid-century style with Hobbit style, and I haven't been quite sure how to do that until I got my green lamps, and it gave me the idea to utilize wallpaper as a way to mix the two styles. So I settled on this floral, which I think will do a nice job of giving me a base to go off of and kind of bringing both mid-century style and cozy hobbity feel into this room. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to wallpaper the wall, and then we're going to arrange the books, and we're going to cross our fingers that it goes well, because I've only wallpapered one wall before.
So the first thing that I did, of course, after removing everything from the walls, was to wipe down the walls and ensure that they were entirely clean. I just used our regular cleaning spray and some paper towels to wipe everything down. You really want to make sure that there's no dust on the walls. I feel like likely a lot of people are going to wonder how easy this is to apply, and honestly, for a beginner, I think it is fairly easy. It is literally just like a peel and stick sticker. The hardest part is lining things up, and as you can see, I decided to skip above and below the windows in my wallpapering journey, which may have been a mistake. Let me know in the comments if you can see what kind of sort of went wrong with the entire wall by the end of this. I don't know that it's that noticeable, so I'm not going to mention it, but somebody's gonna notice, I'm sure. But I was utilizing a certain flower in the pattern to match up the pattern, and to be honest, because it's a cheaper wallpaper, the pattern matching is not exactly perfect. I think it's a little bit too narrow actually in some spots. I don't know. I would line it up perfectly in one spot and it didn't quite line up in other places, but because the pattern is so busy, you really don't notice. One thing that one of my friends asked me is whether it works well on non-smooth walls, and I would say absolutely not. Probably skip this if you have texture on your walls. I encountered a few little tiny bumps on the wall that I couldn't even see, but it was just enough in the paint, like some flaw, some drip, who knows, that when I smoothed over it with my tool, it ripped the wallpaper in certain spots, and so there were a few user error bits. Also, going around the windows was a little bit sketchy, and I probably didn't do it right, but I don't really care. So here you can see I am patching one of the areas where I just ran out of the roll. Patching was actually not that bad, and I decided to cut around a little bit to make it less noticeable because I couldn't quite pattern match at the top. So I don't know how helpful this was to do, but I just couldn't match it up, so I decided to kind of cut around the edges and disguise it. And then I went around smoothing everything and patching under the window where there was kind of a gap. And for this little teeny tiny gap over the top of the window, I decided to cut out a flower and put it over the gap because I thought that would be kind of cute and it would hide the gap. I mean, it's not really hiding it. It's definitely drawing attention to the fact that I made a mistake, but in a cute way, which I really end up liking it. And I kind of still want to go around and cut out more flowers and just put them randomly on the wallpaper, but after that it was time to trim up the edges and get rid of all of the excess wallpaper, and then I decided to hang a mirror. So I took a piece of paper and I put the nails where they needed to be because the mirror has two hooks on the back, and I poked holes measuring on the mirror, and then I put that on the wall and centered it and put up the mirror, and it was beautiful. I put most of the books in rainbow order, sort of, and then I propped my old typewriter up, and it is time for the reveal.
Done, and I am so incredibly happy with the way that this turned out. Now, I did not originally start this video planning to wallpaper my wall, and I thought this was going to be a one-day decluttering books situation, and it turned into a 4-day shoot. But I'm so happy that I did this. My next plan is to actually wallpaper the wall on the opposite side of the room with the same wallpaper. We've built our son a bedroom in the living room, and it sounds a little weird, but once you see it, you'll understand. I plan to wallpaper the outside of his walls with the same wallpaper to pull it across the room. I'm very excited for that because this is so beautiful. It just turned out so amazingly, and I'm really glad that I did finally get rid of books. So anyone who ever told me to get rid of books, you can absolutely gloat that you were right. That doesn't mean I'm not going to get more to fill up my shelves again. I am very happy that I did this. I found a lot of books that I just don't think I will ever read, or I wanted to be a classics girly and I'm not, and it's time to free up the space on my shelves for books that I'm actually going to read. I am very happy with this project. I really desperately want to make over the entire living room now, but that will be a pretty slow process just because of cost, and it's a big room and there are a lot of things that I'm going to be replacing. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. If you're interested in improving your skills in any creative area of your life, Skillshare is a very great place to start, and the first 500 people who click on my link will get a whole free month of Skillshare, so don't forget to click down below. As always, I hope that wherever you are feeling safe and loved, and until I see you again, have a beautiful day, and thank you for watching. Bye! Pippin!
Pippin wanna knock it.
Pippin!